G'day, Justin Hook from RightSource here, talking not-for-profit governance, and today we're talking a little bit about research. It's something that comes across, has come across quite a lot recently in terms of where an organisation should sit in terms of the research they're doing. And what I'm talking about here is not for-profits that are set up specifically to research or to find scientific research, but not-for-profits that are there for a purpose and are looking for research to supplement what they do. And this is very interesting because really when I talk about research, it's really having that independent viewpoint that they can then lean on as an organization. So say, for example, homelessness, which is one area I do a lot of work in, and if you've got independent research that says if you do provide services this way, or you provide a housing first model, it saves the economy money, or it helps the government utilize its resources better. If you have an independent body saying that, be that a university or an academic body that's coming through and doing that research independent of your organization, it allows your organization to then point at that when you're talking to government, when you're talking to marketing, to those other aspects of your organization, to give it more credibility, so that there's a lot of noise and there's always a lot of people trying to say how all the good that they're doing. If you can actually point to someone else confirming the value that you're adding in terms of your organization, that allows you to lift yourself up and actually give you a better chance in the things that you're doing and being successful. So independent research and that independence part of it allows that lift. So because of that, that's I think why we're coming across a lot lately. A lot of organizations looking at how they get involved in research, or if they are already involved in research, how they continue that involvement. And it's quite interesting. So one of the first things then is when you're looking at research, is should you do it in-house? Now, what I mean by that is you've got obviously the ability to hire someone internally to be a head of research and to drive that research agenda. Probably secondary to that is to partner with a research organization so they share the cost of an individual, helps minimize the cost, lowers the amount of control you might have in terms of what research is done and the resource, but it lowers your cost while still being able to have a fair degree of influence in the research that's being done. Probably the downside of that internal research person is, especially if it's a wholly internal research person, is potentially the independence or the independent viewpoint that's seen. But you do get to own the IP and you do get to control the process. Obviously, as you step down to that partnership model, your independence increases, your control decreases. And then obviously you've got that ability, lastly, well actually there's two other ones. There's the outsourcing the research, so to say, okay, go and pay a research body to do a specific piece of work. That piece of work might be a bit expensive individually by itself, but obviously you're not hiring and having an ongoing commitment to research. So it lowers your longer term cost, but less likely you'll own the IP and much more independent, because you're paying someone to go and do research on a piece. They go and do it. It's their credibility that's on the line. So therefore the independence, and because you don't own the IP as well, really helps to be able to point to that. Obviously, hopefully it gets the result that you want, but it at least gives you an independent viewpoint. And lastly, sort of taking the outsource model a bit further, is actually effectively just seeing what other people go and research, what other research is done that's out there, and keeping a watching brief on it. So not paying for the research as such, but people are doing research all the time because they want to find out the best way to approach the problems that we've got. So quite often research is done that you can go and point to, that is freely available, as long as you're referencing the source of the research. It's there that you can rely on it. So there's probably the different aspects you can take in how you deal with research in your organization. And as you can see, that breadth, there's quite a difference in terms of cost, in terms of independence, in terms of the structuring, how much research you're doing, the volume. So it's not a simple conversation just from looking at that. So why would you look at that? And I suppose there's a couple of for me, points that really resonate when you're looking at research in terms of the value it adds to a not-for-profit. The first real one for me is in that advocacy piece. So if you're advocating for a certain group of individuals needing help, or how that help's provided, or the fact that the way that you're creating your services needs to be more freely available to people, that information and advocating for that, if you're doing that just one-on-one, and it's you and the government representative who's doing that, or the organizational body, it tends to be a little bit, well, this is my opinion, so you should believe it. It's a he said, she said thing. Where you get research and you can point to a piece of work and say, well, this piece of work says that if we do this model, or we undertake this activity, this is the benefit overall that we society get, or as the government gets. And then you can have a conversation around not is there or isn't there a benefit, but is there an ability to provide assistance? And it's a different conversation. And it allows you to have more authority in that conversation, because you're bringing that research along with you that isn't just your opinion, but hopefully is agreeing with your opinion. So that way you've got a basis for it. And it provides a much deeper conversation and a much greater chance of success when you're advocating, because especially with the government, they only have they don't have an endless amount of funds. So they do have to pick and choose what they put their money towards. So by having a confirmed point of view and an independence that the government can point to and say, well, actually, there is more chance of these funds actually making the impact that we want, there's more chance of success. And sort of flowing from that then is, that funding potential. So when you're using it in your marketing, or when talking to your philanthropic interests, again, if you're saying, hey, look, we're doing great stuff, please give us money. Yeah, that's not untrue. But if you can actually validate that you're doing good work and point to another external piece of a reference point to say, look, these people have confirmed the work we're doing, the impact that we're making. So that's why you should invest your donations or your philanthropic interests in our organization, because of the impact that we make. And we can demonstrate that. It's not just, you don't have to take our word for it, you can take their word for it as well. And that then gives, especially as everyone's becoming more educated and in terms of how donations are used and that market, they want to see that, when they give money to someone to go and do some good, that the good is actually, being delivered and is making an impact. And then the last area in terms of research that I find quite valuable for an organization, especially as, new technology comes around, society changes, more challenges come up. What can happen with an organization when it's not-for-profit, when it's first set up, is it'll have a purpose, but because of these changes, the purpose gets not lost, but unclear. And so, well, we started out doing this because that's what we were going to do to make the difference, to fix the issue that we see. But now this technology's happened, there's some NDIS has happened, or, so now it's not clear how we're achieving our purpose. Yeah, we're doing stuff, but maybe our purpose has got a bit unclear. In having a research or ability to look at research and say, well, how you're looking to achieve your purpose, and this is how things have evolved, and this is the things you can now do to be effective in achieving those goals, can help you redefine your purpose or shift it a little bit, but it allows you to get that focus back. So, or even ask the question, we set up our organization to, help the environment in terms of cleaning the ocean. Is that being achieved? Is it getting worse? That's one piece. So does it still need to be performed? I think we probably know the answer to that, but having the research go, yes, it is, and then maybe researching current techniques that are being employed to see whether there's an area you want to get involved in, or an area that through that research is shown to be missing. So that type of stuff can really add value to the organization in terms of giving its direction back to. So that's really a bit of a summary on research. It's a really interesting topic in terms of a not-for-profit, because it isn't necessarily the core operations, but it can add a fundamental lift to an organization in terms of where it stands and its progress going forward. So always happy to have a conversation. If you've got any questions on this video, feel free to put them in the comments below, or check me out on LinkedIn. Always happy to answer any questions that might come along. Otherwise, if you like this video, check out the other videos we've got on YouTube. We've got a whole bunch there on not-for-profits and governance. Otherwise, and definitely feel free to subscribe if you like the video. Otherwise, I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. It's Justin Hogg from RightSource.